So Tyler, the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, is forecasting that at least 20% of Ukraine's winter crops, most notably wheat, may not be harvested or planted. What is Canada's capacity to make up for the potential shortfall from a country that is literally called Europe's breadbasket?
Yeah, Chris, it's a good question. Canada does a really good job of producing a lot of similar crops. Canada and Ukraine are similar climates. Ukraine's got very good soil. One of the reasons why there's a breadbasket, but it means that we do produce a lot of similar goods. We both produce a lot of wheat. We both produce a lot of canola. They produce sunflower, but that both goes into the oil market. So we often sell similar products on the world stage, but the reality is that we produce pretty much all that we can in Canada. Extra land that can be put into production. We don't have a lot of extra land that can be converted. And we don't carry a lot of stocks. Most of what we produce goes out onto the international market. So we don't have a lot of standing here. So on a short term, there's probably not a lot that we can do right away. The reality is that signals are being set. Prices are higher. Farmers are planting these products that are in demand around the world. So while you'll see production increase, production is also going to be impacted by the weather in Canada. It's going to be impacted by other challenges and barriers farmers might face. So in the short term, there's probably not a lot that Canadian farmers can do to put more product on the market today. But you're going to see farmers do all that they can this year to produce as much as they can.
The hot topics in any Canadian conversation is the weather, and from coast to coast, our country being as big as it is, there's different weather, different parts of the country, too hot in some parts, too cold in others, too wet in others. So what is production looking like this summer from your point of view?
It's been an interesting spring. Again, if you look at one end of the prairies in Alberta and in Western Saskatchewan, it's been very dry. If you look at the other end of the prairies, in Manitoba, it's been very wet. Very few places have been just right. It's hard to tell. It's the crops that farmers grow today and the approaches that they use to growing them are very resilient. Our crops can grow and survive in ways now that they couldn't 20 years ago. Our production tends to be more resilient, but if you look at the extremes in weather that farmers have faced so far in 2022, the risk of some of those extremes carrying on into the summer are significant. So while it is too early to tell, and our hope is that, again, the farming practices, the tools, the crop varieties that they're growing are going to help those crops survive what gets thrown at them this year. The reality is that we're probably going to see very different outcomes and results from a yield perspective, from a production perspective across the country. Again, there's still lots of ground in southern Manitoba that's been too wet for farmers to seed. This is not an ideal scenario at all.
I mean, Canada is already a leading agri-food exporter. There have been calls for Canada and others to do more to feed the world. Is there something more that we can do in general?
There's things that we can do as a country. Supporting the World Food Program is important. When you look at the immediate food security crisis that's happening around the world, we look at effectively 50 million more people being pushed into famine because of the food prices and concerns around food availability. If you look at the cost of delivering food aid around the world, prices that the World Food Program is paying are up 30%. $70 million more a month it's costing them this year because of the invasion of Ukraine, but also just because of these prices that have been around. So Canada can do more, and I think Canada can do more to rally the world to increase its support for the World Food Program. It's worth recognizing Canada is the fifth largest donor to the WFP, and we should continue to do more there. But that being said, again, we need to be looking to make sure that we're giving farmers and enabling farmers to do what they can to increase production. We need to make sure that our government policies aren't doing any harm, that we're not putting the foot on the brakes. And And I think that the federal government certainly seems to be looking more closely at that. There are some things that we can do, long-term investments around increasing irrigation, investing more in research and innovation that help. But ultimately, what we need to do today is let farmers do what they do best, and that's grow crops and increase production as much as possible. It's not an easy year for them. Again, that weather that we talked about earlier it just adds to this extra layer of volatility. Prices have been volatile. The inputs that they're paying for have been volatile. These are problems that are being felt all around the world, and the more that we can do as governments to come together to make sure that we're creating the right conditions all around the world so that food gets to those that need it, the better. One of the unfortunate things that we're seeing, Chris, and it's not so much an issue in Canada, is embargoes being put in place on exports. India is one of the world's largest wheat producers, not a major wheat exporter, but a major wheat producer. It had put a ban on exports. We've seen countries that are major oil exporters limit their exports. Again, these all make this bad situation that much worse. What we need to do is find ways for this food to get to where it's needed all around the world.